Hey everyone, welcome to another tutorial from our YouTube channel, 3D Redbox. I'm Mehdi, and today we are going to talk about how to texture this suite inside the Painter and render it inside the Marmoset Toolbag 5. So, beat me, but before that, let me introduce you the brand new course that we release for Substance Painter from zero to hero. Learning Substance Painter is easier than ever. Hey all Substance lovers, texture seekers, and awesome future artists. Welcome to ultimate course for learning Substance Painter from zero to hero. Ready to learn how to texture with different projects? Substance Master released a brand new course for those who want to learn to texture with Substance Painter. In this course, we cover from preparing the model to rendering different projects, different challenges. If you want to level up your skill in texturing, come and check the Substance Master Ultimate course for learning Substance Painter. Okay, welcome back, and we can start the process. So first of all, we need to load the model inside the Painter, and for this specific model, we are going to use UV tile workflow because we need to have high quality texture at the end, and we don't want to lose any detail on the material. Okay, so let's press OK, and as you can see, we have the model inside the Painter, and as UV, we have these three UV tile for the suite, and this one is for the accessory like button and the buttonholes. Okay, so that's it, and we can continue our work. First of all, we need to go to the baking menu and bake all the mesh maps for this model. So I'm going to turn on bend normal, change the output size to 4K, and change anti-aliasing to 64x, and just press on the bake, select the texture, and wait for the end result. And after that, we can continue our processing in the texturing phase. Okay, now for the first step, I'm going to create the layers for the suite itself. So we are going to use a pre-made material from Substance Community Asset. So it's free, you can use it. I'm going to put the link in the description so you can download it and use it in your project. So it's so easy. You need to just download the file, click and drag, import it to your layers, and yeah, you have that. Okay, and let's bring down the scale. Maybe 6 is good. Yeah, perfect. And we have a good base for the fabric, and we can go into the pattern and change the type of the pattern that we have. For example, we can have the checkerboard, or we can have the wave or mesh type. Okay, I prefer to use the wave, and let's increase the size of the document so we can see what's happening on the texture much better. And let's increase the tiling to 3, or maybe we can go for the 4. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, and I'm going to decrease this parameter, maybe lines intensity, so avoid any kind of lines effect on the material. Yeah, like this. And I'm going to increase tiling for the line, so yeah, it's so much better. Okay, let's pick the color of the top in a dark gray, and for the bottom we can go for darker. Yeah, something like this. The black suite is so awesome. Okay, so let's decrease the wrapping lines effect, and we can go to the parameter itself and change the luminance variation. So if you bring up this option, this is the result that you are going to get, but I'm going to decrease it. Yeah, it's so much better in this way. Okay, that's great. Before doing anything else, let's go to the texture set setting and add the ambient occlusion channel because we need that here. Okay, and it's time to create the lines on the fabric. So I'm going to create fill layer. Let's call it lines pattern, and I just need to have the color, roughness, and the metallic. I choose the metallic channel because I want to have some metallic line on the suite. Okay, so let's bring up the metallic value to something like 0.8, and the roughness value is good for me, and maybe a little darker gray would be better. That's great. So we can go here, add a black mask, and add a fill, and in this fill I'm going to load a strip. That's great. Okay, let's change the tiling to something like 5, and let's go back to the pattern. I'm going to increase the strip to 12. Yeah, and let's bring down the width size so we have the small line. That's great, like this. And for the shift, let's bring it to 0. Okay, so we have a problem here, and the problem is mismatch mismatching in the direction for the texture. But how we can solve this? The old method is to mask the area and create a duplicate layer and just rotate it. But the new workflow is using the UV set. Okay, so I'm going to choose the UV set and change the source to UV set 1. And as you can see, the direction is right. Okay, so let's change the rotation to 90 and it's fixed. It's a new feature for the Substance Painter in a 10th version and it's awesome. But how we can set the UV set for our model? Let's do that. Okay, right now I'm going to use Sirius Max for doing this stuff, but you can do it with any other software like Blender or Maya. So basically you just need to create a guidance, another UV set for Substance Painter to set the direction of the texture or the projection of the texture. Okay, so first let's select the model. Okay, give the unwrap UVW map modifier to that, and we have the UV layout for the model, but the direction is not right. Okay, so let's bring this UV layout to the next channel. Okay, so I'm going to use the move. So we are in a second channel and we have the same UV layout that we had inside the first channel. Okay, and in this channel we are going to change the direction of the UV island according that we need and we want. So let's select all these layers of the UV. Okay, that's great. And I'm going to just choose the rotate 90 degree. That's great. Or we can do it in a way like this. Okay, that's great. So there is no need to packing again, rearrange the UV island, just change the rotation in the way that you want. That's it. And we just need to convert it to editable poly. So your model is going to have two separate channels. The first one is the main UV channel that you're going to create your texture based on that. And the second one is a guidance for your texture projection inside the painter. And you just need to re-import this model to the painter and that's it. So we find a way to solve this kind of problem, I mean the direction mismatching problem, very easy and very fast with the new feature inside the Substance Painter, which is very powerful and you can implement that technique into your texturing process and solve various problems, okay? But right now we create the line, we create the base of the fabric and we need to create a folder for them. Okay, so let's call it Sweet Base. Put that into the folder, create a mask, add a paint, and just select the area that I want. Okay, that's great. We create a mask for our first folder, but I'm going to add another paint here to the line pattern, change the blending mode to subtract, and choose some area here, like these parts, to create some variation for our sweet material. Okay, so basically we create the base, and I'm going to add some color variation. So let's add the first layer, the color variation number 1. I'm going to pick the color, just the color, and put it on white value, change the blending mode to soft light, and add a black mask, add the generator, go here and choose a 2D linear. Okay, that's great. So let's play with the balance, and we can change the color to the black. I think it's much better. So let's invert it. Yeah, I think it's so much better. That's great. And can play with the balance again, change the opacity of the layer, and yeah, that's great. So let's create another color variation. Okay, so let's add mask, add a fill, and let's load something fur. I think fur number 1 is good. Let's bring up the tiling number. Okay, play with the contrast, play with the balance. That's great. So let's add filter blur. Okay, that's great. I'm going to add another fill, load a grunge. Okay, bring down the balance, change the blending mode to subtract. Yeah, and let's add another filter here, and let's load the histogram scan. So let's go to the mask itself, and yeah, I think it's good to have some white spot on the surface, but we need to bring down the scale, the balance. Okay, play with the blur intensity, and we can control it with the position in the histogram scan. Okay, so let's bring something. Okay, that's great. So let's go back to the layer. I just need to keep the color and height, just a small amount of height and maybe white value, and we are going to tweeze opacity. That's great. Okay, and I think that's enough. We can add another fill layer. Let's call it curvature. Okay, just pick the color. Let's go to the white value, change the blending mode to something like soft light. height. Yeah. And let's go to the black mask and the generator and load the curvature. Okay. So basically it's going to add more value on the edges and the top surface. Okay. And we can decrease the opacity, but as you can see, we have a great touch on the wrinkles, for example. That's great. We can go here, play with the global blur, okay, or value. So we can decrease the opacity again. I think, yeah, this would be great for this month. That's fine. So we create the first folder for the suite and it's a base, and we need to move on to the tie and other piece of the suite. Okay, let's focus on the tie. And for the tie, I'm going to create a folder. Let's tie. Let's add a color like orange to that. Let's add a black mask. Choose the area for the tie. Okay, that's great. So we just create a mask for the tie, and let's go here and create a feed layer. I'm going to call it the base, and we just need to have the color, height, roughness, and metallic. Okay, so let's pick the red color for that, but not kind of this red. Maybe this one is much better. Okay, I'm going to bring up the roughness to something like 0.6. Okay, that's great. And I'm going to add a fill layer. Let's call it strip pattern, and just add a black mask. Okay, and add a fill and load a strip texture here. Okay, first let's choose the tiling number to 10, and let's go back to the pattern. Okay, bring down the sheet to, yeah, maybe this one. I want to have this direction, so let's change the rotation to 90. Okay, and bring up the sheet, and yeah, I think 10 is good, or maybe 9. Yeah, I'm going with the 8. 8 is much better, and let's bring down the width to something else. Okay, that's great. Let's duplicate the strip pattern, divide the tiling to 2, and put the 5 here. Change the blending mode to linear dodge. Okay, that's great, and come back again, play with the width, and create this kind of pattern. You can add different pattern in here. Let me search about fabric. For example, you can choose this kind of pattern for the tie. It's okay. You can download any kind of pattern from the internet, import it here, and use it. But in here, I prefer to use strip lines. Okay, so let's add another filter like blur and put the value like 0.11. Okay, that's fine. And I'm going to add an anchor point in here because I want to create different fabric pattern for this area and the red one. Okay, so let's create another fill layer. I'm going to call it fabric pattern, and let's add a black mask, add a fill, load the strip pattern anchor point that we create, and just add a level and invert it. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to use the material mode in the layer and load the cotton jersey. Okay, that's great. Let's bring up the tiling to the 5. We don't want to have the color, roughness, metallic, A, or anything else. We just need to keep the height in here. Let's go to the technical parameter and bring down the height range to some, yeah, 0.05 is good. And we just need to come back to the strip pattern layer, change the blending mode to soft light, go back here, the white value, pure white, and we can control it with the opacity. Okay, that's great. We can keep it like this. It's a solid one. That's great. Let's just keep the color and the height and the roughness, and we can play with the roughness. Let's bring up the height. Yeah, I think it's much better, and it's better to keep it like this. Okay, and for the color, we can create another fill layer, make color variation number 1, and same, we can use this method here too, but we need to adjust 3D linear mask like this, or maybe we can choose the invert one. Yeah, so much better. And for the color variation number 2, we can add another black mask, go here, and just search about the fabric and choose the close fold large, so we can increase the tiling. Yeah, and I'm going to create it pure white, change the blending mode to soft light, and play the slide. Okay, so we just add some variation on that. That's fine. So we are done with the tie. That's enough for that. And let's focus on the dress shirt that we have in here. Okay, so let's just create another folder and name it dress shirt. Okay, that's great. Let's add a black mask and choose the area that we want. Okay, for the dress shirt, let's create a fill layer, and I'm going to call base. In the material mode, let's load the denim. Okay, that's great. I'm going to bring up tiling to something like 5 or 6. Yeah, it's good. And let's pick white value. Okay, and this is a dark gray, or maybe we can bring it up a little and make it whiter. Okay, that's great. I'm going to the technical parameter, bring down the height range. That's great. And let's bring up the tiling to 12. Okay, that's fine. And I'm going to add the over pattern layer. Okay, let's add the black mask. Okay, and add a fill layer. Just search about the fabric, and in here I'm going to use the fabric diagonal thin. Okay, let's bring up tiling to something 20. That's great. And let's use the UV set number 1 to create the correct direction for our texture. Okay, and I'm going to change the blending mode for all channel to the normal. So just right click on the blending mode and use apply to all channels option. That's great. Okay, let's go back to the mask and we can increase tile 4, and yeah, much better. And we can play with the number, okay, like this, play with the bend, achieve the result that we want. Okay, I think it's good and it's enough for the white dress shirt that we have. Let's go back to the layer, keep the color, hide roughness, and the normal. Okay, let's pick a little whiter value, and we can add a little depth to the pattern that we have here, like this. And for the roughness, maybe it's much better to have something like mid-range, the roughness value. Okay, that's great. Let's check other channel. This is the base color. This is the roughness. Yeah, it's so much better. And this is the normal plus height plus mesh. And yeah, perfect. Okay, that's great. But it's not the overall pattern that we want to have. We want to have different pattern on this part. So let's create folder and call it the base. Put these two in here and the black mask and choose the area that we want. And let's create another folder. I'm going to name it second layer, add the black mask, go to the mask and choose this. Okay, it's super easy to fill this second layer because we want to have this base again inside the second layer, okay, like this, but the color, it's totally different. I'm going to pick the color from the tie, okay, and just make it a little darker, or maybe we can go for the brighter color. Yeah, I think that's good. And I'm going to create another fill layer and call it color variation number 1, or we can call it fabric pattern. It's much better to understand what we are going to have in this layer. So we just need to keep the color, the height, and the roughness and the metallic. Okay, I'm going to add a little metallic value to that, a little roughness. We need to change it to more rougher surface. Okay, maybe a little height value, like this amount. And for the color, let's pick the dark value, and we are going to change the blending mode of all channels to the normal. Okay, like this. And let's add a black mask, add a fill, search about the fabric, and I'm going to choose this one, the fabric star block, and bring up tiling to 10. Yeah, and we can increase tiling here to 4. Okay, let's play with the roughness. That's fine. Okay, yeah, I think it's good. Let's go back in here and maybe we can go for the minor negative value like this one. And yeah, I think it's good. It's good and enough. And we can create again the color variation in here. Okay, same structure. And yeah, I think we can control balance. Okay, maybe change the black color to white. It's a good option. And I'm going to bring it up and put it on top of the fabric pattern because we want to have this effect on the fabric pattern too. And let's decrease the opacity. That, yeah, I think it's good. That's great. And this is for the second layer. Okay, we are done, and we can go for the accessory and create the material for the accessory. And after that, we are going to export everything from Painter to the Marmoset and create the lighting. But before doing that, okay, let's add this area too to the dress shirt folder. Go back in the second layer, and I will have inside this. Okay, that's great. And let's start the accessory material and finish up this project. Okay, let's go for the accessory part. And for the accessory, I'm going to create the mask. So basically, we just need to go to the UV layout and just select this part because we just put together all the UV island related to the accessory in this UV top. Okay, so the mask is ready and we are going to use that. And for the first part, I'm going to use the plastic smart material comes from the Substance Painter itself. Plastic soft dirty. Okay, I think that's good. And we just need to change some minor setting like the roughness value. Yeah, like this, because we want to have some shiny surfaces for the bottom. Okay, and let's add the color variation number 1. Let's pick the white value, change the blending mode to soft light, add a black mask, and choose the field. And in here, let's load the grunge, something like grunge map. Okay, that's great. And I'm going to balance. Let's add a filter like blur. Okay, so we have a great result in here. Maybe we can increase the blur intensity. Yeah, that's fine. And that's enough for the button itself. And I'm going to add another material for these parts. Okay, so let's add a fill layer. Okay, I'm going to call it nylon. And in the material mode, let's search about the nylon itself. Yeah, we have it. Okay, that's great. Let's go to the parameter and make it white and the dark gray. Yeah, it's better to have it in this way. You can play with the roughness value or play with the fabric variation. Okay, let's add a black mask, add a paint, and choose these areas. Okay, the mask is ready, and as you can see, we have this. Maybe we can add more. Yeah, maybe this spell better. That's great. And I think we are done inside. But before exporting, we need to add the final touch on the texture. Okay, so let's rename this paint layer to the effect, change the blending mode to pass through, and apply to all channel. And let's add a filter like the sharpness. Okay, so we have the sharpen, and the one is too long, so I suggest to you to pick a value between the 0.2 and 0.8. Okay, so in here I choose 0.2. Okay, that's fine. Let's filter, and I'm going to call that the contrast and bring up the contrast, the color. You just need to have this on the color, so be sure to turn off all channel except the color. Okay, so this is the difference. And at the end, let's add a and add filter like high to normal. Okay, and I'm going to turn up the use word unit, so we have intensity, and for this project I think 2 is enough. Okay, maybe we can go with the, and for the AO we can decrease the radius. That's great. So right now we are going to export the texture from Substance Painter, okay, with the Unreal Engine 4 template. Let's put the file type to base on output, and just for the size, pick the 4K. Okay, I'm going to export it, import everything inside the Marmoset, create a lighting system, and render it, and the finish. Okay, right now we are in the Marmoset Toolbag, and we just need to import our model with the simple drag and drop, and choose the material and change the UV in the texture to UDIM, okay, because we use the UV tile workflow inside the painter, or in the other words, UDIMs. So we just need to change this setting, and right now we can import the texture with a single drag and drop, and as you can see, it's load the UDIMs, so it's super simple. And yeah, okay, so let's change the channel for the roughness to the G, copy this texture, paste it here, change the channel to the B, and for the occlusion we have this, paste texture, and the red or the R is fine for the occlusion. Okay, so the material is good, but we need to flip Y for the normal. As you can see, we have this. Okay, we can select the model, turn off the callback faces. That's great. So I'm going to create a camera, change the focal length to something like 75. Okay, that's great. And let's go back to the render and just change the output size to 2000, 2500. Okay, that's great. Go back to the camera, choose the save frame option. So we have this, and right now we can change the render engine type in here. So we change the raster mode to the ray tracing. Great. And now it's time to create the lighting setup. So I'm going to select the sky, change the backdrop to the color, pick the dark gray like this. Okay, and in the library, let's go to the interior and choose the train station. Okay, put it on 10. That's great. And now it's time to add the additional lights. So first of all, I'm going to add a light, change the type to the directional, and in the position, let's make 0 for the rotation, make 0 for the position too. Okay, just select the light, turn off the sky, and change the light shape to the rectangle, put it on the maximum value that we have here, change the brightness to something like 7. Okay, and just bring the light to the back. So this is the backlight that we have. Okay, for the color, let's pick the white, and I'm going to duplicate this one and just rotate it in the x-axis to create the top light, but we need to control the shape like this, and even we can change it to the spot. Okay, so we can bring it up with the brightness, increase spot angle. Yeah, and we have this kind of top highlight effect. That's great. So we need to create the field light and the key light. So let's duplicate this directional light. I'm going to name it the key light. Okay, let's turn off all the lights, change the shape to the sphere, bring up the diameter, and let's rotate it. Okay, so this is our key light, this is our backlight. Okay, and this is our top effect light, and we can decrease the brightness for that. Yeah, maybe this one is good, and let's rename it to top light, and for that back. Okay, so we have this arrangement, and let's duplicate the key light and rename it to the field light. That's great, and just a little, and I think this side is good, but we need to decrease the brightness to some this. Okay, and yeah, we have the studio lighting that we want. It's great. Let's go back to the camera, go to the tune mapping. We can change the tune mapping to the aces, but it's going to create our image more darker. Okay, so we can keep the tune mapping with the new method method that Marmoset gives us in the 5th version and just play with the clarity, a little contrast, play with highlight, control it, and play with the midtone and shadow. Go back to the sky, bring down color in here. Let's go back to the camera, go back to the post effect, increase the sharpen in the render. I think it's good. Maybe we need to increase highlight a little, and we can increase the exposure too. I think it's much better. Okay, we can have the bloom. We need to increase the size, and we have vignette. And that's it. We have a beautiful shot inside the Marmoset. We can duplicate the camera, change the camera, and set your location and the frame for the camera like this. Okay, and we can go to the focus, turn on the depth of field, choose a location, and you create this beautiful shot. Okay, and that's it. So I hope you learned something new in this tutorial. If it's so, please hit the like button, share this video with your friend, and put your mind in the comment section. You can contact us with the email, or you can visit our store in the ArtStation, in the website, and we recently opened a Patreon channel that you can visit over there. We are going to create more content for the Patreons over there, and you can have exclusive benefits like one-on-one session, feedback on your personal project, and so on. So don't forget to do all these actions. Be happy, be safe, be creative, and bye.